You know, our country's going through some very difficult times right now. And I think that's an understatement. I'm from around the Wheeling area in the northern panhandle. I'm actually from Chester, West Virginia. And I drove down from Chester, West Virginia this morning, got up about 5 a.m. So I'm a little bit tired. And if anybody, I'd be surprised, anybody know where Chester, West Virginia is? Okay, it's it's the very northernmost little town in West Virginia, as far north as you can go. But if you do know where Chester is, or if you haven't been there, we are home to the world's largest teapot. I mean, it's not exactly one of the 7 wonders of the world, but if you want to stop by and take a look at it, we're proud of it. You know, the reason why I'm running for the U.S. Senate is because the republic that we've come to know, what our founding fathers gave to us, based on certain principles, based on certain constitutional principles, the republic is crumbling right now. We've all seen the administration currently in Washington and all the scandals taking place, from the war on coal to now the war on religious freedom. I'm an Irish Catholic. My full name is Patrick Riley McGeehan. And, you know, there is, certain things this administration is doing to go against our religious freedom rights. We've seen the Federal Reserve, as of late, continue to print money out of thin air and monetize the debt. We're running trillion-dollar deficits a year. And these deficits, even by the government's own admission, are going to run into the foreseeable future. The Constitution of the United States is under attack right now. And it's under attack increasingly at an exponential level. The last 2 years, the National Defense Authorization Act, which every year is approved by Congress to authorize the defense budget, contained a provision within that bill that granted the executive branch of our country the power to indefinitely detain American citizens. We have this scandal that's going on right now, and it's probably no surprise to a lot of us, this certain scandal involving the National Security Agency. Finally, the media's reporting on it, that violates the 4th Amendment to the Constitution. The National Security Agency is spying on innocent American citizens. You know, I have a lot of people sometimes say, oh, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. You know, I'm not a terrorist. Well, I don't have anything to worry about. But when you set those types of unconstitutional precedents, horrible things take place. And all you have to do is study history, be a student of history to realize what kind of power that gives to centralized government. Yeah, they can use that data to crush their political opposition. It doesn't matter if you're innocent.
Right.
You know, so we cannot afford to continually tolerate the violation of constitutional law. I first took my oath of office as a freshman cadet at the U.S. Air Force Academy many years ago, about 15 years ago. I'm getting old. I raised my right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And what I'm suggesting right now is the greatest threat to constitutional law is a domestic threat. And if we don't stand together now, if we continue to elect the political elite, it doesn't matter what party these political elitists are in. They have only really one agenda. They're not going to come out and verbally tell you this, but it's to get reelected. They enjoy just being politicians. You know, they really don't pay attention to what the people want. They don't pay attention to their oath of office. And by the way, if every person in elected office was simply obey obey their solemn oath of office, we wouldn't have nearly the amount of problems that we're faced with today. The country's growing poorer, and we've seen authoritarian government continually increase over the years. And it's, like I said before, growing at an exponential rate. We've seen this scandal with the Internal Revenue Service, targeting constitutionalists, Tea Party members, patriot organizations, using their coercive power to do such. We've seen a horrible foreign policy. We continue to send American men and women in uniform around the globe to be the policemen of the world. Founding fathers never foresaw the American military as being the world's police. And now we have veterans coming back, combat veterans coming back, and there is a huge suicide epidemic amongst returning combat veterans that are my age. I did a tour overseas in the Middle East and in Afghanistan. I was an intelligence officer. And I know a lot about the National Security Agency and what they're capable of. And it disgusted me. So I can just tell you real quick what my simple beliefs are. First and foremost, I believe in constitutional government. Second, I believe in free markets. Third, I believe in individual liberty, sound money, and I do not believe that the American men and women of this country in the armed services should be the policemen of the world. Because, folks, our government's growing bankrupt. We can't afford to do these types of massive intervention wars around the globe, and it's just not morally right. We need to get back to sound constitutional principles. It's the only hope we have. Because if we wait and we continue to be apathetic, if we continue to allow these types of horrible violations of constitutional law take place, there may indeed come a time when Americans completely forget about their Bill of Rights, about the Constitution. They might forget where we came from. They might forget the teachings of Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, John Adams. But that is not this day. That is not this moment in time. That course is not inevitable. I ask you just to join us in this fight in the U.S. Senate. I'm running based on those principles. Delegates, I never, ever engaged in vote swapping. I voted no a whole lot, actually, my campaign manager. Lance Wheeler, actually, he's originally from St. Albans, and when he came back from his job in Washington to manage our campaign, he actually helped manage Rand Paul's campaign in 2010. He couldn't be with us today because he's actually babysitting my 9-year-old little girl at his place over in St. Albans right now. I didn't want her to get sick with the weather. But we deeply believe in these principles. We looked up the research, by the way, during my tenure in the House of Delegates, and I guess I did have the most no votes ever in the history of one term, so I didn't know that. You know, you can't vote for something just because everyone else is. There's a lot of groupthink that goes on in the legislature. It's even worse in Washington.
Oh, yes, it is.
So I just knew that I could not look myself in the mirror if I voted for something that I didn't believe in. Actually, when I was in office down in Charleston, I posted a sign outside my office that said, "Life, liberty, and property, all others need not apply." So that kept the lobbyists a little bit away from it. But I just want to reiterate that we need to act. I really appreciate all of you coming out. And we do have sign-up sheets that should be passed around. I think Stephanie Bush is doing that. So if you want to sign up and just provide our campaign with your email address, we can keep you informed as things progress. But we have a real chance to end, now that the Burr dynasty's kind of gone by the wayside, and now the Rockefeller dynasty's coming to an end. I'm tired of these political elitist dynasties that just rule our state.
That's right.
And my opponent, most of you know her, Shelley Capito, we have a chance in this Republican primary to end those dynasties and really return a U.S. Senate seat to the people of West Virginia and finally transform West Virginia into a constitutional conservative type of representation of Washington. Let me add just one thing. If any type of legislation comes up in the U.S. Senate and we can prevail, and I'm in the U.S. Senate, I will filibuster and talk until my lungs have no more air in them, okay? And unfortunately, so that's enough from me. I know you don't want to hear me talking all day here. I'll basically try to go over. I think Ashley Stitt wants to make a few remarks. And I'm going to put him on the spot. Because this guy is a true patriot, and he lives over at Scott Depot, right, Ashley? Yeah. And if he wants to come up here and make a couple remarks too, because he's been a tremendous help with our campaign, and I think you might see him on the ballot sometime in the distant future or near future. So here.